Too many people are talking, not enough are saying anything real. This is the Amplified Vodcast, where we go beyond the headlines and talk honestly about what it takes to lead, build, and communicate in industries built on illusion. I'm Angelique Phipps, and every week I sit down with people who have earned their voice by living it. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Arianne Craig Jolla, a powerhouse speaker, accountability coach, and corporate trainer who helps leaders and teams transform pressure into performance. She's the author of Under Pressure, A Woman's Guide to Resisting the Urge to Quit, and her newest release, The Power of Pressure, From Stuck to Unstoppable, which challenges us to see pressure not as something that breaks us, but as a fuel that moves us forward. Welcome to the Amplified Vodcast. I'm so happy that you are here, and I'm so excited to hear more about this book. Knowing a little bit about your background, particularly in education, what took you from education to being an author? And just let's start there. Tell me about that.
Of- Thank you. Of course, starting with gratitude. Thank you so much, Angelique, for giving me space on your platform. I really appreciate it. And I would say that it's a natural progression. I've always loved to write. I've always been a reader. I've always been a writer. And it fits very well when it comes to education. So it's just a natural progression. I think that the best educators never stop educating. They never stop teaching, never stop learning. And I just say that I have chosen another medium, which is through books.
So, was there a specific turning point that you can think of when you're like, hey, I want to get all of this out of my head and on paper with the world? Was there a turning point where you were like, I'm going to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard rather? And what led you there?
Yeah, I would say so. The Power of Pressure, which is the one that I released in July, that's my third one. The first one specifically spoke to education, spoke to parents from the point of view of an educator. And I would say that the catalyst for that first one, and I think that it carries over into this one, and even the next one, I've already started working on the next. The first one was called Teach Your Own Kid. Who Can't Do It Alone. And it was sort of the brand is strong, but it was sort of my way of communicating to families the importance of taking the helm when it comes to education of our young people. So that first one was, in a sense, hey, stop talking about it and speak to the audience. And it just carried over into my second book. And then now The Power of Pressure, my third one, it is the same thing. It is, you've got this information, you've got this conviction, and it could add value to someone else. So give it away to the people who need it.
I love that. And I love it seems like there's a through line with just the advocacy, even if it's advocating for yourself. And I think advocating as parents, advocating leaders, advocating. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. And I thank you for bringing that through line in, the advocacy part. It really is, in a sense, advocacy with Teach Your Own Kid. And that was 2017. With that one, it was helping parents to see their own power.
Yes.
And that advocacy piece, it all ties in together. The Power of Pressure is helping women specifically, not exclusively, but helping women to see our own power and the power of pressure.
As women with the pressure, and so many times we are parenting and advocating for the community, and also with the pressures of work and the pressures, it's a lot. I want you to talk about that piece of it, like just as women, everything that we deal with, and then how within the book you tell us how to deal with it.
Yeah, we experience pressure from almost the womb, right? We experience pressure to conform, pressure to hide, pressure to become invisible. all of those things. And unfortunately, we have a tendency to be suppressed or to run away from those things that feel difficult, that feel abnormal or feel out above average or out of the norm. The way that I view pressure, I wanted to reframe it for us and give us an opportunity to see pressure from a more positive standpoint. Maybe exposes a belief, a limiting belief that we've had, and gives us an opportunity to capitalize on the power of pressure. I start the book by saying, hey, we've all done it. We've all scrolled past. And if you're not on social media, maybe you saw her in a room. Maybe you just got off the phone with her. Maybe it's a friend or a colleague or a sibling or relative who is, in your opinion, killing it, who's doing all the things, and she's always into something else. And it seems like she has it all together. And sometimes because we automatically think, we dismiss it because it feels like jealousy. We dismiss it because nobody wants to admit, well, okay, she's doing all the things, and what about me? And what I challenge the reader to consider is that maybe that is her calling you higher, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's pressure calling you higher through that person. When I was coming up, I had to sometimes remind myself there is no other Ari. Nobody could be Arianne, right? Nobody can be me because I'm so unique in the sense. And sometimes I would have to give myself that pep talk when I would have a friend who maybe was getting more attention from the boys than I got, or who got better grades than I got, or all of the things. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing to think, oh, well, maybe I'm a little bit envious. Maybe I'm a little jealous. And I like to think what she has done is called you higher. If you look at it in that sense, you can keep a proper perspective. She does not become the enemy. She becomes a catalyst to allow pressure to push you.
What I'm wondering with this is, where did it come from? Like, I understand in terms of just, self reminders coming up, but was there a certain lived experience?
Absolutely.
Hey, this is it. Let's talk about that.
There have been so many. I can speak specifically to one that I had. It was a few years ago. My husband and I started a private school. We ran that private school for a little over 12 years. And right around the 11th year, which is maybe about 5 years, I'm going to back up just a little bit. I would feel pressure when it was time to start school because I was a very good student. And it was also when you are a good student, it's something about that performance that could give you anxiety, that could cause you, and I would even suffer with migraines when it was time to start school. And so I look back at that. So that's a piece of my history. And then fast forward 30 plus years as an educator, as an education entrepreneur, specifically since 2011, I would feel a similar pressure when it was time to prepare for the school year to start, because now I am leading a school. I would feel a similar pressure to perform, pressure to be perfect, pressure to get all the things right. And it got to a point a few years ago that I felt so much pressure that I needed to take action, right? It was either do something to release this pressure, to relieve it, to sit with it and see what it is calling you to. And I didn't have the language for this. I'm looking back now in hindsight saying that's what it was. It was all work in the road. Either do that, like sit with the pressure and comb through it and interrogate it, or break. I had an option. And in that moment, I said to my husband, I said, I have to break away. This was before the school year started. I have to break away. I have to get out of the environment, out of the home. I said, I need to drive somewhere. And so we found this spot not far from New Orleans, and I just got a cabin. I went glamping, right?
Okay.
I went glamping for the first time. And of course, he was like, look, you need to take somebody with you. I know you want to go and be away and all the things. So I invited a friend. She got a cabin. I got a cabin. And we both were in our A-frame cabins, right? and there was AC and all the things, and we were surrounded by water and nature and alligators. There was a fire pit where we could roast marshmallows and do some reclaiming of our intentions, and we could write things down and throw it in the fire. So I spent a couple of days doing that and sat with the pressure and said, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it? And that there was sort of a realignment that had to take place, and there was sort of a recommitment, and then a plan of action that I had to put together. So to answer your question, that experience was that one of those, because I've had many, was that pressure to do right by my students and their families, and having a little bit of misalignment with the challenges of being an entrepreneur, running a business, of running a school, and being a pioneer and being the first in my family and all the things. There's a lot that comes with that. And I just had to sit with it. And that's what I chose to do instead of breaking and walking away.
It sounded like there was pressure to take care of everyone but yourself.
Absolutely.
I think with the pressure, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. We're always recovering, always.
Yeah. Oh, we won't recover.
With that, we understand that there's a level of being stuck in that perfectionism, and the more pressure comes, sometimes we just hit this like, I can't do it, and but you can, you end up doing it. Yeah, you end up moving through it, but it's probably not the best way you should have doing it. This from stuck to unstoppable says it sounds clean. It sounds very lovely. But let's talk about it, because it's messy, it's ugly, it's everything in the middle of it. What does that stuck look like for high achievers, and what is your advice to those of us who are perpetual recovering perfectionists?
Oh, this is good. From stuck to unstoppable. Yes, it is. It is simply put. It is it's simpler than it is. And at the same time, there's one remedy. There's a remedy to go from being stuck to unstoppable. Okay. And the solution is action. The solution is action. When I think about that moment that I just described about running, and I didn't look stuck. I wasn't standing still, right? Literally standing still. I was still in motion. I was still registering students, reaching out to parents, having orientations, recruiting. I was still doing all of the things, but I was doing it in the mud. That's what feels like. Stuck feels like you continue to do all the things that you know need to be done, because that's the resilient part of us as human beings, and specifically as women. We can still do all the things, right? For the most part, unless we are dealing with maybe some mental health issues and depression, we're not just going to lie down and allow things to go by the wayside. The average one of us is going to continue to do the things. If you ask me, I may not say I'm stuck, but that's the thing about reframing pressure. Is pressure can be something as light as a nudge that says, do I really want to do this job? Do I really want to stay in this relationship? And you start getting those questions that might pop up as you are doing the thing. Right. And if that question continues to pop up, or you continue to feel misalignment, something comes up when you see this individual, or something comes up when this topic is brought up, that's how you know that you are stuck, because something on a repeat. Just to answer your question, knowing that you're stuck is the start. You're knowing, and that's that repetitive something that is happening, that you see, that you keep hearing, that you keep experiencing. That's how you know you're stuck. And then to get to unstoppable takes an action. And an action could be something as simple as stopping when it happens. I'm going to take it to where we can reach it. When I'm scrolling and I get to this certain person, and there's something that pops up every time I get to her. So realize something happening. Instead of scrolling past her, I'm coming back and I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to say, what is it that's going on right there when you see her? What's going on right there? Or what is it when you see this or them or all the things? Asking the question and sitting with whatever the answer is. And that is a simple action that could help us to recognize where that pressure is trying to lead us. That was another long answer, but
Oh, it was a great one. Well, I'm over here nodding because it was resonating with me. Earlier this year, I went through extreme burnout and I felt like I was in a very toxic environment. I didn't want to hate what I do. Because I love what I do and I love the people that I do it for, you know? And it's like when you hit that point, there are people that are like, I never want to do this again. And they walk it and that's it. I've seen it with educators, I've seen it with fellow PR people where it's like, I hate this. And it's not that, it's just you were probably burned out. And so when you're like, you need to sit with it, you need to stop. My stop was, you need to go
somewhere.
the world will keep spinning. It just, I knew I was on the edge of it. And so when you're saying like, sit with it sucks.
But it can get you on the other side of it. And I challenge, even in the book, I talk about burnout, right? Burnout can be an indication of misalignment.
Yes.
It's not necessarily that I don't love the thing anymore. I was very misaligned early in my career as a teacher. A good educator looks like was being translated. My view of a good educator was my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Weber, and my mom, who was a para for 23 years. They spoke to what I believe a good educator was. So when I got into the system, their idea of a good educator was someone who taught to the test and made sure these kids were ready to pass a test. And so there was a misalignment that I labeled. I'm just burned out. I just don't want to do it anymore. And it wasn't that. There was a misalignment that needed to be interrogated, that needed to be questioned. And then the action was that I eventually left teaching to start my own school so that I could be aligned with what I believe an educator looks and feels like.
Love that you did that. I love that you were able to take that and say, okay, this is what this looks like. Now we're aligned.
Yeah.
That's like you're over here saying a word times 1,000. You're challenging people to stop shrinking. That is something I personally name so many times because I see, especially with women, it's like, as you mentioned earlier, it's almost like we're taught to shrink ourselves for people and things. And I think women, as women of color, we are particularly taught to be quiet, or you've got to be twice as smart to do this. And it's such flawed messaging, period, because really at the end of the day, when you look who's running things, who's making everything in order, who is creating and truly doing much, like, why are we shrinking? And so let's look at encouraging people not shrink. Maybe they don't know what it is. It's not always obvious. What are the quiet ways that people shrink under pressure that maybe most people don't even notice?
I was raised by, my mom was 38 when she had me, right?
Mhm.
She was 38 when she had me. And my mom was raised by her grandfather, who was a sharecropper in Mississippi. So my mom was only a generation or so away from slavery. So I look back and I think of when you talk about those quiet ways that we shrink, many times it has to do with, it starts with even our childhood. The ways that we are conditioned, we're quietly conditioned to diminish, to fade into the background, to be invisible. Children are to be seen and not heard. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. These are some of the things that I heard from a mother who I have absolutely no doubt that she loved and adored me and all 8 of her children, right? And wanted the best for us. And have also been taught to shrink, have also been taught to fade into the background, to be seen and not heard, to be careful not to question authority. And even if you are strong as a woman, and when I say strong, I'm talking about like leadership skills and you have confidence, shrinking doesn't always mean that you have low self-esteem. Shrinking can be that quiet way of, I'm not going to ask another question in the meeting because I don't want to be looked at as the angry Black woman, specifically just because we're women of color. Not wanting to inconvenience other people is a way of shrinking. Being afraid or careful because you don't want to be looked at in a negative light or you don't want to be disliked. So there are certain behaviors that we adopt based on those proclivities that we have. That shrinking, we all have areas. I might be amazing when it comes to leading my team. And then when I get the room with my colleagues or those people where I'm intimidated, then that's when sometimes that shrinking will show up.
Again, you just spoke a word.
Yes.
Yes. I think about it in even many of the things that you named, where like if we look historically, those things can also, that shrinking, but all of those things could cost us our life and our livelihood. I remember reading something just about the Black maternal health crisis, particularly within our state, but as a country, period. And, there were so many incidents of women that you would think would stand up because they were standing up for everyone else. Like there was one lady there, she was an attorney. Her mother was talking about her story and just saying like she didn't want to come across as the overdramatic Black woman or this, that, or the other, but she was legitimately having problems that ended up killing her. And I think about that where, in my case, I'm Native, I'm Choctaw, and, we have like the drunk Indian, the government pays for everything. And that we're, just the idea of not knowing that you have to advocate for yourself health-wise and say, oh no, we are not doing this. I mean, there was till the mid 90s, there was still forced sterilizations going on.
It's unbelievable.
It is, and it's disgusting, but it's like, I think where we have been taught to shrink and or assimilate in whatever ways, it can kill us.
Absolutely.
And so I love that you are naming these things and just saying like, look, you may not think you're shrinking, but I see you doing it. And this is how you fix it. And just to have people give thought on what ways that they're doing it is, I think, half the battle.
It is half the battle. It is so valuable just to sit with somebody and to become so aware of it that you question it, because it can be so infused in your everyday decisions that it can sometimes be scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's even the thought of like, I think about something my grandmother used to say all the time about like how I needed to work twice as hard, always. And it's like, you may look one way, but people will still know what you are. And it was like, this is the most confusing thing happening. But just the idea, but I do work twice as hard, like try to, and I tried to like be, even though sometimes I'm definitely not the smartest in the room, I want to like frame it, and work hard and try to read up and do all of these things. And it creates an undue amount of pressure, in my opinion. So you have no idea how excited that I am that you've named me.
Look, I appreciate it.
You think about all of your dysfunction and you try to piece it apart.
But it's empowering. It is you saying, oh, now I can see it. I can name it for what it is. And once we're able to name it, that's when we've taken our power back. It's not for me to name what your challenge is or what your proclivity. It's for me to name it for me. Now I can take my power back because now I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I'm willing to do the work that it takes to reverse it.
Yes, I love it. So your book offers real systems. And I love that you have not only these things that we're not thinking about and naming them, but you're offering real tools and frameworks for us to go, okay, so that wasn't obvious to me, but now how do I fix it? Can you
Yeah.
walk us through some of that for those that haven't read the book? Then they need to.
Well, absolutely. There are some systems that I use in order to handle pressure. One of them that I speak specifically about in the power of pressure has to do with the importance of, so everybody that knows me for the most part know that I wake up at about 3:45 in the morning, every morning, Monday through Friday. Saturday, Sunday is a little different. I wake up super early, right? Because for me, it's part of my strategy. And that's important because part of your system has to work for you. It needs to be repeatable, but it needs to be tweaked in order for you to thrive. So most people know that I wake up at about 3:45 in the morning. And there are certain things that I do as soon as I get up. I sit with God. I work out. I touch my money, which means I'm going into my accounts and looking at categorizing transactions and all the things. And let me be very clear, I was not always there. I touch my money because as a business owner for 12 plus years, I was afraid of it. I didn't know what I was doing. So that's the reason that I do it at the top of my morning, because I don't have any excuse that I ran out of time. Right.
I love that.
Even that is a part of my system. It's not, oh, she wakes up and touches her money because she's so good at it. She does it first thing in the morning because she avoids it otherwise. Right. I was afraid of what I did not understand. When you are a high performer, a high achiever, and this is just me, things usually come very easy for me since a kid. And this is not me boasting, this is just me knowing myself. But mathematics and finances have never come as easily as English or history. So I know that that's even true for many of my students. Like my husband thinks mathematically, but he's also a musician. So for me, I have to put 10 times the effort in to understand something like finances, like debits and credits, and like, here's this transaction goes here and all the things. So running a business for over a decade, I was so busy in the day-to-day of my business that it was easy for me to avoid the finance piece.
Yep.
Because it was scary. It was big. It was hairy. I didn't understand it. So the scary piece of me was I don't understand it. So that scares me. And I've tried to understand it and still can't understand it. And that scares me even more. So let's just not do it. And that is part of why that is at the tippy top of my daily system as far as my planning and my schedule. I mentioned this in the book as well. A few years ago, I read a book called Eat That Frog. Finances for me is a frog. The concept is whatever is most difficult, let's knock it out. Let's get it out of the way, knock it out. And it doesn't have to be to perfection, but you've got to face it first so that you can get around to the other things that come more easily. But that is just part of my system. I have a system for scheduling and planning my day because I'm up at 3:45. Everybody knows Ari is in the bed between 8:30 and 10:00. So just putting those strategies and systems in place to help me handle pressure.
Yeah.
If you think about it, even in the evening when most people are like, oh, let's go and do this, let's go and do that. And I'm already near bedtime. It's not that I'm inflexible, but if I know I have something heavy to do in the morning, I prepare, then I've got to resist the pressure to conform. And I've got to allow my system to move me toward the action that I've already pre-planned. And that action is get enough rest.
So now I know too, when I see you out past 8, it is like a full.
It is a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice. Yes.
I'm not gonna go, oh, you're here. I mean, it's past. It's really good to see you. We like, why are you looking at me? Do you know what time?
Oh, yeah. Trust me. Now you know the secret is out.
I love that. And I guess just adding to it a little bit as having felt defeat when it comes to mathematics for a high achiever, like that's something you obsess. Your feelings are really hurt because you're like, why can't I not tackle this? But the idea of just facing it like, okay, it's gonna look at every distance, start to get it, and then celebrating those small wins when you are getting it. I love that because as you're talking, I'm like, we are the same with that. But it
does. It can really challenge your ego. And then you surround yourself with people. My accountant, she has the heart of a teacher, but I had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to a who have the heart of a teacher and who understands how scary the numbers are for me. So it is about setting yourself up with a circle of people and resources, because sometimes it won't be necessarily individual. It could be just resources that, whether it's math for you or finances or building relationships are scary, social anxiety, all of the things, like just putting some things in place around you that help you allow the pressure to push you in the right direction.
Let's talk about accountability. You are an accountability coach, and I think that accountability gets misused a lot, especially in this hustle culture, if you will, that we are currently surviving in. Tell me a little bit about what it means in your work. I think sometimes just naming it. How are you making sure that it's building people instead of, because man, accountability can be a rough.
Oh, accountability for me in my work, specifically, I can look back to the playground. I have always been the person who, I can remember being in first grade and the kids would come to me for advice, right? Or they would come to me to ask me for help, right? So accountability. So the reason I'm saying that is because I'm grateful that you asked that question, because it makes me go back and see, okay, that's the origin, but you didn't even realize what was in your makeup, how God had created you. But I've always been that person for my circle, for people to come and be able to share and also to be able to extract, right? In my work today, it's evolving into, and you asked, how do I make sure that it is, should we use the word supportive or
building?
I ask the questions, right? I listen. And for me, building is just like I do with my students, same thing I do with my clients. Building for me is not giving you my opinion. It's not giving you the answers. I don't even like to use the word empowering, as if I'm giving you something that once belonged to you and I had possession of it. I don't look at empowerment. I look at empowerment as something that comes from within. Same thing with my students. They help shine a light on it for you, right? But I'm not giving you anything because it's not mine to give to you. I look at accountability coaching in the same way, that what my job is as a builder, as a creator, is to shine the light on what you may be missing, but it's already in your possession. It's already there. So shining the light for me is listening for clarity and then asking the question that will help you to see what it is that you need to see, not what it is that I want you to see. And I think that that's important when it comes to accountability. Having someone be able to come to you and say, you've proven to be a safe place for me, whether it's professionally or relationships or personal or all of the things. You've proven to be a safe place. Otherwise, I would not be coming to you, paying you the money to do it, right? And I am also looking to grow from this experience. And the only way that I'm going to grow is that if I am taught, that's my educator, right? If I am taught how to find this for myself.
Yeah.
Because if you're giving it to me, you're not growing me. You're not helping me to build. you are actually making me more dependent on you. But my job as an accountability coach, as an accountability partner, is to help you to discover the tools to help you to be able to find this on your own eventually.
I love that. You and I have a mutual friend that has always referred to things as midwifing. Yeah, and I've sat with that a lot lately, just from the storytelling and the narrative aspect, because I have a similar way that you do, where I can sit here and tell you all day, like, what I think it is. And the power in that story is you. And so helping you birth and come to that space, similar to with the accountability, you can't be self-accountable if I'm sitting here like, yeah, so you need to be paying attention to this. But if, in your case, if you are helping them get to that, then it makes them sit with it a little bit differently.
Oh, that is a wonderful way to put it. It's already in you.
It's there.
You're the one pregnant with it, right? You're the one carrying it. And my job is just to walk with you through the process.
And that's how I feel, even with the narrative piece. I look at it as helping people step into their power, because we're all made up of all of these powerful experiences and these stories. But if you are only regurgitating what I tell you to, then it's not the same as if you were feeling that moment of the kids on the playground coming to her and those emotions that are coming up from that. And then you as an adult being able to do these things. But those emotions are very different.
Absolutely. And that is so true. You experience it in your own body, it becomes easier to identify it and then to move accordingly.
Yeah, that's true. When you have that person and that partner with it, it's less scary, because you're not going to go there by yourself. Sometimes it can be dark and it can be messy, and being accountable to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That one's rough.
That can definitely be rough. But like you see, you also have to be accountable to yourself. You also have to keep your word to yourself, because believe it or not, that's how we build confidence. We build confidence by holding ourselves accountable. If I say, hey, I'm not eating after 7, I'm going to do some intermittent fasting. And then if 3-5 nights out of the week, I'm still eating after 7, then it does affect how I see myself. Like, I'm just not going to eat after 7. This is what I want to do. I'm going to develop some discipline. It doesn't have to be a weight thing or health thing. It's just, okay, I want to develop some discipline in that area. And if I keep letting myself down, if I keep saying I'm going to do this thing and not doing it, and I'm not holding myself accountable to it, then it does affect confidence and how you move.
And then I think the lovely part about it is when you're self-accountable, the only person you have to blame is you. It's beautiful. You don't just write, you're leading. And I want to know, how are you carrying this message into rooms, whether you're standing in front of teams or leaders who are under their own kind of pressure? Let's talk a little bit about that. Taking this to the...
This is good. So, and correct me if I go off what you're asking, but I believe I can answer based on what I hear you asking. One way that I bring it into all of the rooms is through my own experiences and with compassion. The modalities, I'm bringing it in as a keynote speaker. I'm bringing it in as a workshop, leading a panel, being a member on a panel. So all of the things to help get the word reframing pressure. It's not new, but I'm going to speak to a certain demographic, a certain audience that maybe someone else who has done some similar frameworks may not be able to reach that particular audience. But I'm always going to bring it into those rooms, whether it's through corporate training or even through youth development. Right? I will never not be a lover of young people and an educator. I'll never not be that person. So in all of my work, I infuse all of the things that God has, the passions that God has gifted me. Whether I'm walking into a room, not long ago, I spoke about the power of pressure to a room of young women who were at a leadership summit here in the city of New Orleans. I'm speaking to them about leaving a lasting impression on people and developing relationships. So I think I was talking about just not long ago, I was in a room full of young ladies on a Saturday morning who were proven leaders and were at a leadership summit. And I'm speaking to them from my book, The Power of Pressure. We're giving it to them in a way that is digestible. I didn't even mention the name of the book because the principles are what were important. So whether I'm speaking to a group of young women or speaking to a room full of corporate executives or leading a panel, I weave it in with compassion and with expertise based on my experience and the experience of those that I've worked
I would say whether you know it or not, you do it. It's just in conversation. I know just our conversations, I feel like it gave pause to just cause me to think about the areas, like even earlier within this conversation, and talk all of the signals that I needed to think about. And, now I understand how much of that was burnout and how hard burnout can be.
Right. Yeah.
But I would say it drifts on into your personal interactions as well, which is beautiful.
Thank you. If you're going to travel the world speaking about it and coaching people and helping people, then you better be living it and it better seep out in conversation and in your lifestyle. I think that's important. So thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate that.
I definitely meant it as one because I think it's great. Tone is something that I've noticed in your work. You speak with urgency, but never chaos. And that's something to be very appreciated. Was that intentional? And why does tone matter so much when we're talking about pressure versus pain and just moving through?
Yeah. Tone is critical. I say to my students, I've had it said to me, it's not how you say it. It's not what you say. It is how you say it. Sometimes it is really not what you say. People have been talking about pressure in their own way forever. Tone helps me to reach the audience with which it resonates for me, right? So tone, speaking in a way that is both practical and, like you say, urgent, but also not chaotic, also not judgmental. There are some people who need to hear what I have to say, and they will only hear it if it hits the right note for them. And that's where tone comes in, is making sure that I'm careful to stay authentic, which is important. And that's where tone comes from, authenticity. And tone has to strike the right note. It has to strike the right note with the person who is meant to hear it from me. Not everyone is my audience. Not everyone will receive from me, but my tone is tuned for those who have an ear to hear it from me in that way, if that makes sense.
What you're telling me may resonate much better than it may have resonated from someone else that wrote about it 20 years ago. I think just as curious human beings, we tend to pick different takeaways from different things. Like you and I could go to church together and you may have one takeaway and I may have
absolutely. Yeah.
Or we may go to a conference and you may be really excited about this and be like, yeah, that's not what I got. I heard.
Absolutely.
And
it is tuned into your frequency. It's tuned into your specific frequency. That's what we're saying, is that tone matters. How you say something is important because it's going to connect with that person on their frequency.
Right.
And even now, I can read a book. And I just finished reading a book, 10X is easier than 2X. I've read this book 3 or 4 times. This time, I was tuned in on a different frequency. Same information, but got so many more nuggets out of it. So all of that plays into the approach and the tone with which I give the information and add value.
I hear the educator. My mom was a teacher, and so was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, now granted, there was various styles and various career spans, one being longer than the other.
One day is enough. One day is good enough.
I think my mom made it like 5 years. My grandma made 40. So I don't know which one was better or worse, but I won't judge. But I do hear it. It's the educator. So it's like that I know you well. So like what your tone matters and is received.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me take it to just so our audience, the amplified audience are people that build, they lead, they show up even when it's hard. So they're right up your alley. What do you want them to remember most about what pressure can actually do?
What I want the amplified audience to remember most about what pressure can help them do is that pressure can help you to change what's not working, to shift, do away with what no longer serves you. Pressure can help put you back in the driver's seat, right? As leaders, the amplified audience, you're already leading. You're already in spaces where your voice matters, your thought partnership matters. You're on repeat in an area. And being on repeat means that I have somehow given up control and I've gone on automatic. So I'm in the car and I may be the only one in there, but I'm not driving. So what pressure has the potential to do is to put you back in control, back in the driver's seat, controlling the steering. And I think that that is critical when it comes to those of us who are high performers, who are high achievers, who are respected in our fields, who have work to do, and who have people counting on us to do the work. We cannot afford to be on automatic, right? We can't afford to be on autopilot. We have to be driving, steering, and in control of what happens in our lives because it affects generations coming behind us.
I love that.
Thank you.
What does community mean to you right now in this crazy world on fire space that we are in?
Community means brunch and grilling by the pool and a text that just says, "Hey friend, I miss your face." Community means my apologies for speaking sharply. Community means let's plan a girls trip. It means how's your job search going? So for me, in this moment, community is intentional care. It's intentional care. It is, I am going to be very deliberate about showing you that you matter.
I love that. And I think that's what it's important. I mean, it's always important, but it's important right now because I think that we are all
dealing with friends who lost jobs that they've had for 20, 30 years because of a political difference or a political ideal. We're dealing with even men in spaces where they can no longer provide for their families in the way that they're accustomed to providing for their families.
right.
So for me, community is like, okay, I know we're all going through our individual things. And at the same time, I'm going to make sure you know whatever that language is for you, I'm going to make sure you know that I care. And I may not be able to do anything else about what you're going through, but you're on my mind and I care about you.
I think sometimes that's half the battle right there for a lot of people. It's just feeling, especially I feel like we're at this weird inflection point where there's a lot of self-centered actions.
Yes.
And then when the actions take action upon, the self-centered, they're like, whoa, now what do I do? And
yeah.
I mean, for me, I feel like when you can show empathy, show, care, and create community, sometimes it can change people's hearts and minds.
Absolutely. Okay.
What is next for your work, your writing? We know another book on the way, and then also just your message. What comes next?
I think what's next is going to be the best so far. What's next is precision. Right? Precision. I'm 45. I'll be 46 this year. And I've done the work and paid my dues. And I'm becoming laser focused on my purpose. You can't become more laser focused on your purpose and not become more precise in the opportunities that you say yes to and the ones that you say no to, in how you show up in rooms, how you show up in relationships, how you show up in spaces, what you give to the world. All of the things that I'm working on are now, they're converging. Educator, writer, speaker, coach, sister, aunt. All of the things are now converging to create a more precise experience, not a perfect experience, but more precise in that when it's all said and done, there'll be no doubt what Ari left the world.
I love that.
So that's my focus. I don't know if it's middle age. I don't know if that.
No, you've been on age. I'm speaking for us mid-40s. We're getting better age.
We're getting better. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing, and it is so amazing. And it's the pain and the process. It's all those things mixing together for what I believe is going to be the best yet as it relates to what I give and what I receive.
I love that. Well, on that note, I am so grateful for you. And you took the time, despite suffering from allergies and everything else today, still showed up, and that means a lot. I look forward to this. I encourage everyone to read the 2 books that are out, the next one that is coming out, and also just visiting with you. Will contacts below, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for sharing this space with me. I would not have missed this conversation. Thank you for sharing your platform with me.
Thank you. See you guys next week.